Good morning. Welcome to First Church Unitarian. My name is Cindy Malley, and my pronouns are she and her, and I serve you in a variety of ways, including I'm one of your deacons. So, welcome. I am a huge advocate for making this part as short as possible, and I humbly apologize because I have been given a list that's intense. So, first thing, read Community Matters, because everything I don't tell you will hopefully be in Community Matters. This coming Friday, there is a potluck. It's Friday Food Family Fun at 5:30 in the vestry. Did I get that right? There were a lot of F's. Okay. After church today, the RJAC is hosting the book discussion of I Take My Coffee Black, following coffee hour in the vestry. I hope you join us. There's snacks and everything. I want to remind you that in 2 Saturdays, we have the church fair right here from 10 to 2. And then the following Sunday, on the 22nd, we have the warranted meeting. Also, the men's group is meeting here from 7 to 8:30 tonight in the Alliance Room, but it's also available multi-platform. And finally, I have an announcement from the RE. They need folks to sign up to help. The sign-up sheet is in the Volunteer Center. There will be a Zoom meeting at 7:30 tomorrow for everyone who is interested in volunteering with RE this year. They will discuss classroom management and all things related to helping out in RE. The link is in Community Matters, or you can ask Thea for the link. She's also asking that you save your empty toilet paper and tissue paper rolls because they need them for an art project at the fair. You can leave them in front of Thea's office or in the volunteer center marked for DRE. I bet you could also probably leave them in her car. Yeah. So I think I've done the whole list. Welcome to church. Oh, not yet. Silence your phones. Thank you. And now, welcome to church.
You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. We keep inventing jobs because of this false idea that everybody has to be employed at some kind of drudgery, because according to Malthusian Darwinian theory, one must justify one's right to exist. So we have inspectors of inspectors and people making instruments for inspectors to inspect inspectors. The true business of people should be to go back to school and think about whatever it was they were thinking about before somebody came along and told them they had to earn a living. I live on earth at present, and I don't know what I am. I know that I am not a category. I'm not a thing, a noun. I seem to be a verb, an evolutionary process, an integral function of the universe. Everyone is born a genius, but the process of living de-geniuses them. Dare to be naive. The words of Buckminster Fuller. Let us worship. I'd like to invite Tucker to come up and light our chalice this morning. And as Tucker lights our chalice, please join me in saying the words of our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Thank you. Good morning. My name is Lara Hoke, and I'm so happy and lucky to be the minister of this wonderful congregation. I'm so glad you're here with us. My pronouns are she, her. Welcome. And today we have lots of exciting things, but we have a guest, if you haven't noticed. If you were part of our online-only period of worship services, about a year and a half during the heart of the pandemic, where we worshiped online only, you'll remember that one of the magical things that happened was we had a very regular attender during that time from Austria, and she is with us today. Alessandra is here. It's very exciting, and with her partner, Patrick. And I don't know if she'll care to say something during our Candles of Concern, but hopefully you'll have a chance to say hello to her during the fellowship and coffee hour. So join us if you can. It's so exciting. Glimmer, for sure. Okay. Today, our lay pastoral minister virtually is Carol Tillis, which is great. And our other lay pastoral ministers, just to remind you, are David Butts, Jan Dustin, and Patty Sardella. So if you're seeking some pastoral care, in addition to me, you can reach out to one of them. Our opening hymn is from the Gray Hymnal number 188, and it's Around, and Malley will lead us. It's the words of Rumi, "Come, come, whoever you are." I invite you to rise in body or spirit.
This might be one where you leave the hymnal down, or you can look at it with me and then maybe put it down.
Or the screens, right?
Or the screens. So we're going to sing it together one time, and then we're going to do our round breakup. So this side will go first, and then I'll cue you to come in, and then we'll do it 2 times in a round. You ready? I lost the pitch. Hang on. I played it. There you go.
I don't know. Can you hear me? Good morning. This morning's story is The Curious Garden. There once was a city without gardens or trees or greenery of any kind. Most people spent their time indoors. As you can imagine, it was a very dreary place. However, there was one boy who loved being outside, even on drizzly days while everyone else stayed inside. You could always find Liam happily splashing through his neighborhood. It was on such a morning that Liam made several surprising discoveries. He wandered around the old railway, as he did from time to time, when he stumbled upon a dark stairwell leading up the tracks. The railway had stopped working years ago, and since Liam had always wanted to explore the tracks, there was only one thing for the curious boy to do. Liam ran up the stairs, pushed open the door, and stepped out onto the railway. The first thing he saw was a lonely patch of color. Wildflowers and plants were the last thing he expected to find up there. But when he took a closer look, it became clear that the plants were dying. They needed a gardener. Liam may not have been a gardener, but he knew that he could help. So he returned to the railway the very next day and got to work. The flowers nearly drowned, and he had a few pruning problems. But the plants waited patiently for Liam, while Liam found better ways of gardening. As the weeks rolled by, Liam began to feel like a real gardener, and the plants began to feel like a real garden. Now, most gardens stay in one place, but this was no ordinary garden. With miles of open railway ahead of it, the garden was growing restless. It wanted to explore. The tough little weeds and mosses were the first to move. They popped up farther and farther down the tracks and were closely followed by the more delicate plants. Over the next few months, Liam and the curious garden explored every corner of the railway. Look at that. And then they were everywhere. And after spending his spring, summer, and autumn with the garden, Liam's time on the railway was finally interrupted by winter. Heavy blankets of snow fell on the city that season, and for the first time he'd become a gardener, Liam could not visit his plants. Rather than waste his winter worrying about the garden, Liam spent time preparing for spring. After 3 cold months, the snow finally began to melt, and Liam rolled his new gardening gear over to the railway. Winter had taken a toll on the garden. But thanks to Liam's planning, his handy new tools, and a little help from the sun, the plants soon woke from their winter sleep. The garden had always wanted to explore the rest of the city, and that spring it was finally ready to make its move. Once again, the tough little weeds and mosses set out first. They popped up farther and farther away from the railway and were closely followed by the more delicate plants. The garden was especially curious about old, forgotten things. A few plants popped up where they didn't belong. Others mysteriously popped up all at once. But the most surprising things that popped up were the new gardeners. Look at all these people doing all these amazing gardens. Many years later, the entire city blossomed. But of all the new gardens, Liam's favorite is where it all began. And that's the story of how one curious boy changed a city. She did? Did you like it? It's a good book.
you put your hand in mine. Together we can be so strong and bold. I am a small part of the world. I have a small dream in my eyes. But if I tell you my dreams, together we can reach up to the skies. Hand in hand, dreams combine. Voice with voice, together for all time. Hand in hand, dreams combine. Voice with voice, for all time. I am a small part of the world. I have a small voice ringing clear. But if I sing out for freedom, then you add your voice to mine. Together we can nothing tend to fear. Hand in hand, dreams come by. Voice with voice, together for all time. Hand in hand, dreams come by. Voice with voice, for all time. Dreams come by. Voice with voice, together for all time. Hand in hand, dreams come by. Voice with voice, for all time. I am a small part of the world. Take
I didn't do the welcome that smoothly today. I was so excited about our visitor. But I just want to say, if you are new with us today, we're especially glad you're here, and I hope that if you can, you too will join us after the service for fellowship and refreshments in the vestry. Just follow us out there, for those of you here in the sanctuary. And for those of you new with us online, I hope you'll go to the website if you haven't already. It's fculittle.org, and there you can find lots of information and ways to contact us if you wish. We come now to a weekly part of our service, the offering. This is, oh, I got louder. This is this congregation is self-supporting, and we rely on the generosity of our members and friends to do the ministries of our congregation, both here and out in the world. If you are visiting today, don't feel that you need to give to the offering, but instead consider this service as our gift to you. This morning's offering will be given and received in grateful appreciation. Please join me in the words of our community response. We are grateful for the opportunity to give and serve, and grateful for the gifts we have received. May this affirm the ministries of our church community, both within and beyond these walls. Most weeks we have a special time that we call the Candles of Caring. This is a chance to share any joy or concern that's very important to you with this gathered, beloved community. So if you have a very important joy or concern that you'd like to share, we invite you to tell us your name and let us know briefly how we might direct our thoughts, prayers, or healing wishes. If you are here in the sanctuary, we're going to do it the way we've done it the last couple of weeks, which is to say, to form lines on the side aisles and come up for your joy or concern, and we will light a candle for you up front as well. And for those of you on Zoom, if you haven't already, if you'd like to share, please raise your hand in the reactions area. Are there any hands raised in Zoom yet? One. Can we start with Zoom? Thank you. Okay.
My name's Alessandra Ranelli, and I'm the Austrian cohort of FCU. And I know I'm a lot taller in person. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm going to just try and not cry too much because it was so amazing to have the opportunity to come. And I'm going to swear again, because I did it the first time I showed up at FCU. And they said, "Why are you here?" And I said, "My New Year's resolution is to figure out my God shit." I don't think I figured it out, but I've found a lot of people who I love and who have been there for me from across an ocean, and it's so amazing to be here and finally hug you all in real life, but I feel like I've been doing it for years, and I love you all, and I'm really happy to be here.
Please join with me in the spirit of meditation or prayer. Once again, we have come together in love and trust, sharing those cares dearest to us, to this gathered, beloved community. We think of those joys and concerns that were spoken aloud this morning, as well as those that remain unspoken, as we share together in a time of sacred silence. Amen, and blessed be. I feel like I've been talking to you a lot about the apocalyptic feeling of these times lately. I've been bringing up some really big issues that we're facing, but I haven't really given you any firm solutions. Perhaps you noticed. Last week, for instance, I was talking about the climate crisis and imploring you to get involved, telling you that you owed it to future generations to fight the good fight, to move away from fossil fuels and make other big changes right now. But how? And I know that many of you, like people in other Unitarian Universalist congregations and really people in congregations from just about any mainline church or synagogue, is concerned about numbers, perhaps smaller numbers than in years past in many places, perhaps aging congregations compared to past years. It's hard to imagine what things might look like in 10, 15, 20 years. But probably the worst way to grow a congregation is to pose the question, how can we grow the congregation? Because it reeks of desperation, and nobody is attracted to desperation. So then what do we do? And it all just feels like it's going in circles. Something fundamentally needs to change, but we don't know exactly what that looks like. And it's so hard to think of anything, or to think that anything will change, because the powers that be are tied to fossil fuel money and other polluting industries, and our whole political system seems to be failing right now, and congregations are so old-fashioned and like things more or less the way they are because, well, we decided to be here with things more or less the way they were in the first place, so I wonder what Buckminster Fuller would say. Well, I think we know what he'd say. You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. That's what he would say. But how do we do that? Curiosity, imagination, creativity. Buckminster Fuller sure had all of those things. If you aren't familiar with Buckminster Fuller, he's a great one to get to know. He was an incredible human. He was a great 20th century inventor and writer and futurist. He thought about the biggest questions for humans here on Earth. He was born in Milton, Massachusetts, and he was himself a Unitarian, so we can proudly claim him as one of our own. He was the grandson, actually, of a Unitarian minister and the grandnephew of our transcendentalist forebear, Margaret Fuller, herself an incredibly smart, big thinker. In our call to worship, you heard some of his words. He was certainly not afraid to think far outside of the box. He questioned everything. He invented many things, probably the most famous being the geodesic dome, which you saw on our order of service cover. And he coined some interesting terms like spaceship Earth. I think of him when we sing Blue Boat Home, it brings that to mind. He was an environmental activist ahead of his time because he was very well aware that our planet has limited finite resources. So another term he coined was the wonderful word ephemeralization, which means doing more with less. Ephemeralization. Buckminster Fuller is also a great one to remember if you're going through a hard time. By the age of 32, he was jobless and he was bankrupt. He'd gone through a horrible, horrific time after the death of his young daughter in 1922, and he developed a serious drinking problem, and he even considered suicide. And he entered into a vow of silence for about 2 years, and when that was over, he emerged with a mission and a purpose. He was determined to be an original thinker, determined to devote his life to, quote, applying the principles of science to solving the problems of humanity. He was determined that there had to be a way to make life on Earth good for absolutely everyone. He imagined a future when technology would take away most of the drudgery of work and people would be able to follow their dreams, to live their best life, to use Oprah Winfrey's language, or to become self-actualized, to use Abraham Maslow's psychological term. Fuller died in 1983, 40 years ago, and I think he would probably be very disappointed to see that we humans so far are often using our incredible technology to make more work for ourselves. We've used our technology in so many cases to make sure there's never a time when we aren't working. Fuller knew that incrementalism wasn't going to get us where he wanted us to be. He knew that tweaking existing systems wouldn't get us to the utopia that he was imagining. Curiosity, imagination, creativity. That's the holy trinity of hope. I recently read a book on the recommendation of Reverend Keith Cron. You might remember him from your ministerial search time. He's at the Unitarian Universalist Association's Office of Transitions. And Keith recommended the book Radical Curiosity, Questioning Commonly Held Beliefs to Imagine Flourishing Futures, written by Seth Goldenberg. And that's, of course, just what Buckminster Fuller was all about, questioning the commonly held beliefs of the existing reality to imagine a flourishing future for humanity. To ask the big questions, the right big questions, it demands that first and foremost we start with curiosity. Goldenberg writes, "Our modern world has been inadvertently designed to eradicate curiosity. At a time when every social system comprising society is facing existential challenges, the potential extinction of curiosity is an emergency." Goldenberg says that without a robust culture of curiosity, quote, "we become managers of the end state of a problem. Our roles become reduced to administrators of predetermined solutions rather than interrogators of the unknown, consuming the choices that others have made for us, relinquishing our right to be the author of our own story. We assert agency over our future only when we challenge what is known." It reminds me of a saying that I'm sure many of you have heard. Tradition is peer pressure from dead people. The way around going into the future based on the traditions and solutions of dead people, according to Goldenberg, is radical questioning. The kind of questions that get us beyond what he calls legacy narratives that are shaping our society. The good news is that he thinks we're already living during in-between times, since we're already, quote, "witnessing existential disruptions to legacy narratives that shape our society, the inherited stories, social codes, and historical models about everything from gender to social justice to money to our relationship with the natural world are being challenged." So if you take gender as a good example, perhaps other than the very youngest children among us here at FCU, we were born into the legacy narrative that there are two sexes and two genders. The big question on the day we were born was, is it a boy or a girl? Today, for the progressives among us, we realize that there are more than two sexes. There are, in fact, people who are born intersexed, which used to be covered up essentially and hidden. And gender, there are currently 58 gender options on Facebook, for example. Take a look sometime if you use Facebook. It'll force you to think closely about your gender, which is a good thing. And if none of them quite fit, you can add one of your own. I did that this morning. Topic for another time. This is the reality in our culture today. Going forward, just one powerful example, younger generations have made an existential disruption to the legacy narratives around gender. And it has the potential to be quite liberating for everyone, even those who fit quite easily into the older binary gender models. Goldenberg thinks our best chance of finding flourishing futures for ourselves as individuals and flourishing futures for all of humanity is this kind of existential disruption for all of the big, important areas of our lives. He writes, "To be radically curious is to challenge the narratives inherited from the past and author new stories that reflect who we are and what we value today. It's to recognize when our collective wisdom, like any outdated technology, needs an operating system upgrade. And we need a radical system upgrade." The word radical, you know I have to use my old Latin. The word radical comes from the Latin word radicalis, and in its original sense it means forming the root It's about getting to the fundamentals, the root of something. So radical curiosity, Goldenberg writes, requires breaking down ideas, assumptions, and narratives to their most essential components, and then reconstructing them anew. Practitioners of radical curiosity deconstruct tradition into building blocks that can be bent and manipulated and remixed into new combinations. I read Goldenberg's book and I chose today's sermon topic with an eye in part toward our upcoming sabbatical. As many of you know, I will be going on a sabbatical from mid-January to mid-May 2024. But it's not just my time, it's your time too. It's the congregation's time, really. I intend to be as radically curious as I can be, and I hope you'll try to do the same. And when we meet up in May, after the sabbatical time, we'll be able to swap some stories and have some intentionally radical curiosity conversations together. Goldenberg is very much like Buckminster Fuller in that he radically questions labor, or at least our legacy narratives around it. Like Fuller, he thinks that leisure has real value and that, quote, it is leisure time that is best suited for critical thinking and for the kind of wandering through which new ideas and epiphanies can emerge. So this is very relevant to thinking about sabbatical too. I will have some leisure time that hopefully might help some new ideas to emerge, but it's also my hope that the congregation will leave some space for radical curiosity. Goldenberg reminds us of the colloquialism, the best way to predict the future is to create it. It's empowering. We have this amazing opportunity to create our own future, especially with our congregational polity. You decide the future. You're limited by your imagination. We have that opportunity. He says that we can all learn from the Afrofuturists. The Afrofuturists use science fiction and fantasy to reimagine the history of the African people and the African diaspora. Afrofuturists are, as Goldenberg puts it, optimists who refuse to allow the atrocities of the past to shatter their faith in what the future may bring. Dreaming in the Afrofuturist paradigm is not fantasy, but a form of activism. I think Goldenberg is right. Dreaming and reimagining the world, and even the congregation, can be a form of activism. It isn't easy to think this big. Goldenberg says that the task of radical curiosity requires awe, A-W-E, awe. He wants us to get beyond our fear of change and let awe be the fuel that drives our radical curiosity and our imagination. It will yield not answers, he says, but new questions, better questions, until we go deep enough to see that the process of inquiry is itself awe-inspiring. And this is where the magic lies, in the space between what is known and what is unknown. It's my hope that sabbatical time will allow us to feel awe, to get to the magic, to think in questions, not answers, as Goldenberg puts it. For First Church Unitarian, conversations with big questions will be a big part of it all. I don't know that you'll have those conversations during the 4 months of sabbatical. Perhaps you will, or perhaps that would be overly busy. I don't know. But I do know that we will have the question-filled congregations when we join each other at the end of sabbatical time. And I look forward to it. That really excites me, getting back together in May with our curiosities and our imaginations, hopefully set aflame by awe. It's exciting to dream together, to make meaning together. It's exciting to think about self-actualization and collective actualization. And there will be joy in the process. There will be laughter. There will be connection. It will also, as Goldenberg notes, include the joy of being wrong, but we have to get past our legacy narratives that mistakes are always bad. Mistakes are actually an incredibly efficient tool for learning and changing. So let us be radically curious together. Let us remember the words of the great Willy Wonka, who said, "We are the music makers and we are the dreamers of dreams." May it be so. Blessed be, and amen. And I've decided to go outside of the order of service box by closing with something other than the originally chosen hymn. You'll see the lyrics. Please rise in body or spirit to sing Pure Imagination. For our closing words, if you wish, you can hold hands if the person next to you is comfortable doing that, or touch shoulders or feet or anything that works for you, or simply put your hands out and feel the energy between us and those who are with us online. And these closing words come from Afrofuturist Octavia Butler. Here we are, energy, mass, life, shaping life, mind shaping mind, God shaping God. Consider we are born not with a purpose, but with potential. To survive, let the past teach you. Let the past help you. Let it inspire you, warn you, give you strength. But beware, God is change. Past is past. What was cannot come again. To survive, know the past. Let it touch you. Then let the past go. We can, each of us, do the impossible as long as we can convince ourselves that it has been done before. Blessed be, and amen.
Does everybody want to stand up and face the wall camera and wave hello to everyone online? All right. To those on Zoom, I have a major computer glitch. I'm not sure what's going to happen when I try to clear this up. I may not be able to continue the meeting. Sorry about that. But if not, have a great day.